Everyone, this is Jody Kochi with St. Mary's University of Minnesota, and this is the second of three QRI 6 Qualitative Reading Inventory 6th edition tutorials that I've put together just to kind of help us walk through how to determine independent, instructional, and frustration levels. So welcome. You're going to need three things, and if you watched the first tutorial on finding oral reading accuracy, you probably already have these. But the first one is a QRI student example sheet that we're going to walk you through. We also have the QRI directions for administration. And then the last thing is what I call the QRI level cheat sheet, and it's just a handy reference for the percentages for each of the levels. So if you don't have these handy, if you could pause, you could go get them and then bring them back. All right, just a recap on the information on the student that we're going to be walking you through. Student 1 is in the 10th grade. His chronological age is 15 years, 9 months, so almost a 16-year-old. And through a lot of informal and formal data, we know that he is significantly below his grade level peers in reading. This, if you watched the first tutorial, probably looks familiar. We had already started testing for oral accuracy, and at the time we started at the primer level and achieved a 95%, which we know is instructional. We tested backwards and we tested forwards to attain independent and frustration. Now, at the same time as we're administering the oral reading accuracy, we're also asking the comprehension questions, so we do have data for that as well. Down here is where we take those scores and we put them in here, and so we have found all three levels for oral reading accuracy. However, we do have we aren't ready to stop yet, because if you'll notice, 83% accuracy on the first grade passage, even though it was frustration for oral reading, it was still instructional for comprehension. So we still need to go on. So here we take a look at all of the scores that we've attained by administering various assessments. And now we're going to look at the comprehension scores, and we're going to place them down here by these levels right here. So if you want to pause the PowerPoint for a few minutes and see what you come up with, we're always going to use the highest independent and the highest instructional level, and then the first frustration level that they attain. Okay, let's see. Does yours match the screen? I have 100% at the primer level. Highest instructional level for comprehension was 2nd grade, and for 3rd grade it was frustration level, and those are going to get written right down here. So now we've found our oral accuracy levels and we found our oral comprehension levels. We still have another one to do, and that is listening comprehension, and it's actually a very easy assessment to give. When you have reached frustration on oral comprehension, you're going to start listening comprehension one level below that frustration, and you're going to score it the exact same way. However, with listening comprehension, the student doesn't do any reading. You read the passage to the student. They don't have a copy of it in front of them, and when you finish the passage, you ask the students the comprehension questions from the passage. So we can see that comprehension, no matter whether it is oral, silent, or listening, all uses the same criteria for the three different levels. And you'll notice right here, it's kind of nice when this happens. It went instructional, frustration, and independent right in a row. So we're going to take that data and we're going to put it right down here. You use the same criteria. And so we had 1st grade for listening comprehension, 2nd grade for instructional, and 3rd grade for frustration. And it's interesting to compare these two, because if you look at the instructional levels, this student, his oral comprehension and his listening comprehension are the same, and they're both significantly below his grade placement of 10th grade, which makes him a challenge. All right, we have one more thing that we need to do as far as comprehension goes, and that is this right here. Grade level listening comprehension, you simply choose a passage that matches the grade level of the student you're testing. So because we have a 10th grader, we would choose a high school passage. You read it to them and ask the comprehension questions. And then down here you put what his percentage was, and then whether that was independent, instructional, or frustration. Now, I do have a caveat for this one. Because this student's instructional comprehension level is so much lower than his grade placement. In fact, he's frustration at 3rd grade, and he's a 10th grader. I professionally don't see the point in administering a high school assessment, since we already know that he struggles even at the 3rd grade level with listening comprehension. So what I do in that case is I just put not established, because, and then in the body of my report, if I were writing a case study report, I would explain why I didn't administer those. One thing I do want to tell you though is, if in the course of your testing, maybe not with this kiddo, but if in the course of your testing you already had administered a high school level, because that just was part of the comprehension, you can just use that data. You don't have to administer another passage. Well, believe it or not, that is the end of this short tutorial. Be sure to check out the other two. The first one was obtaining oral accuracy levels, and the last one is going to be on 2 different ways of looking at fluency using the QRI. Thanks for joining me. See you next time.